Viewers, well, I hope you all are having a very good morning this morning as we are getting ready to get into our first interview, which we are going to be joined right now by Mr. Laurence Hislop, Senator Laurence Hislop, who he'll be speaking to us a little bit about the budget that was recently concluded. So, special good morning and welcome to you, sir. How are you doing?
Morning, Candace. Thank you for having me. I'm doing fine. Doing great.
Now, we saw yesterday, we had the Minister of Finance come out and have a press conference. He spoke about quite a few initiatives that he believes did not get much airtime during the budget debate or was not discussed. What was some of those, what are one or two of those things that you think that really stood out that we didn't really focus on during the debates?
Well, the I guess the minimum wage was a critical thing that persons didn't. I think we downplayed it to some extent. The opposition downplayed it, but I think it is critical for the lower income earner in the country to have additional disposable income. I think we also downplay the fact that there weren't any increases that we usually look for when budgets come around. I think after 8 years of being in governance through some very trying times, that the government was able at this point in time with a level of stability to ease the burden on the taxpayers with regards to where we are as a country, because we would have understood that we dealt with um, fuel price shocks as soon as the government got into power in 2015, and then COVID and all of these things. And I think now is the time that the government has a level of predictability and stability for significant delivery.
All right, great. Now, I want to get into some of the things that was part of your budget presentation. You were very critical of the THA, and you made quite a few statements during your budget presentation. One of it is that that the THA destroyed the economy of Tobago. This current administration of the THA destroyed the economy of Tobago. Would you care to elaborate a little bit more on that?
Well. First and foremost, when I saw the reporting of my contribution, I was taken aback that the only thing that could have been pulled out of my contribution was the fact that, um, as a Tobagonian, we ought to be grateful, and that phrase taken on its own sent a particular signal, and I found it very interesting that that was the only thing that was pulled out of a 40-minute contribution in the House. Um, the evidence is there that this administration the administration in the Tobago House of Assembly has overseen a significant decline in Tobago's economy, um, taking Tobago from a growth of 4% to a decline of 2% is clear evidence that not only have they been unable to manage, but people are now feeling the effects of that. Um, and so I make no apologies for saying that this administration, because if the shoe was on the other foot, it would have been said of any administration that would have been in office that they oversaw the decline. What I said is that there is a significant foundation that was left for this administration to build on. And over the last 22 months, and as I said in another place, we are not seeking to compare 21 years to 22 months. What we are seeking to do is to ask the necessary questions of the administration in power today. What have you done with the 22 months and the allocations? You're saying that the allocations are inadequate. But what I sought to do was to make a comparison between what previous administrations were able to accomplish with similar percentage allocation, all of the work that has been done with similar percentage allocations, as compared to what we are seeing within 22 months, or what we're not hearing. So we're not hearing significant work, significant projections of work to take place, nor are we seeing work, nor are we seeing work. We talk about a road for 19 million, but where did that money go? That money didn't go to develop the Tobago economy. We're talking about a road that was a contract that was issued for 65 million for a road that when you consider it in the grand scheme of things, the central government had already pledged by way of a memorandum of understanding to build that said road. And so that money did not need to come out of the THA coffers. But we committed 65 million to a road that the central government had given a commitment that they would build at a particular design. So you've taken that upon yourself, committed 65 million that could have been used for something other than the road that the government, central government said we will build. So you could have taken that and done another project
But that
or
money,
several
however, was
projects.
not spent yet on that road because, as we heard from the secretary last week in the plenary sitting, actually only a portion of the $90 million for the road right here was actually spent because everything else was on under that build financing structure where that money will be spent
No,
afterwards.
the reality, Candace, is that the money has been allocated to the project. You signed a contract. So you can't then take, if you sign the contract for 19 million, whether it's build, design, finance, you have to pay for it.
Yes, but
So
they're not paying for it right now.
no, hold on. You
But
have to pay for it. So $19 million of your allocation has been set aside. Even if you're not paying for it now, 19 million of your allocation has been set aside to pay for the road. 65 million of your allocation has been set aside. So whether you pay for it now or 2 years down the road, you still have to take 19 million out of your allocation. That let me not, the 65 million is what we're focusing on. That 65 million could be used or could have been used for something else. But you have taken that 65 million and committed it.
well,
Whether you pay for it now or 2 years down the road, you're still committed to use the 65 million.
but by that same argument, we also have a situation where the THA inherited quite a lot of debt from the previous administration, over $700 million, and that's not counting some of the other loan debts for other projects,
Right.
right? That is of a similar financing structure. How was the THE supposed to treat with that debt when the allocation that they've been receiving for development and funding is way less?
So the reality you face with governments is that all governments inherit debt. All governments inherit debt from previous administration. What you do to keep your economy going is, yes, you pay down on your debt as well as still engage your contractors or engage service providers. So you can't say as a government, we can't do anything because we need to pay our debt. Then you're going to shut down the country. You're going to shut down your island. So you sit and you talk because we talk about this administration inheriting debt. The previous administration, when Mr. London came into office, Mr. London inherited debt from a previous administration.
But how?
Two contractors.
But when we also have the demand from a lot of contractors to pay the debt, even the demand from yourself to pay the contractors.
So let me put it this way: if you sit with the contractors and you engage the contractors for work, there is something called mobilization. If you engage these gentlemen, these contracting firms with work, it happens in Trinidad. It happens around the world. Once you keep engaging individuals for work, your economy keeps spinning. They keep working. Yeah? And the debt is paid incrementally. Now, I'm not saying that that is the best arrangement. It is never a good arrangement for you to be in complete debt. But I was privileged to be part of a program with a World Bank official, senior official. And he said in no uncertain terms that debt is a good thing for governments. It is how you manage your debt. So it's not a situation where you take all of it, where it is required for you to take all of your development money and pay the debt. And bear in mind that a request was made of the central government for funding to pay particular debts, and that money was given to the THE to cover debts.
And
You have
that's
to ask the question, how much of the money was used to cover the debts? Did they use all of the money to cover, or did they use all of the money that they asked for the purpose for which it was asked for?
well, I mean, do you have evidence that
That
they
what?
did not spend the money to pay the debt?
But we are taking the evidence of the word of the Secretary of Finance.
Because according to the Secretary of
Mm-hmm.
Finance, they, from what was received, because there was an allocation made in the mid-year
Right.
budget review,
Yes.
and they used that money to actually pay
All of
off
it.
the debts.
Did he say all of it?
So he said
Did he
that,
say all of it?
well, I
Because I
mean,
can't remember him saying all of it, guys.
if you have some
No,
information,
I'm just going based on what was
but
said.
that was not what you said in the Senate, because you said in the Senate that the mid-year budget review was to pave roads, and you asked the question.
All I'm saying is that I never said that, never said here this morning that the mid-year review money was to pay debts. I said money was requested to pay debts.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The mid-year review money, based on the line items, the line item in the mid-year review said that the money was for road infrastructure.
Well, that was road infrastructure towards paying for debts.
I can't speak to that, neither can you. The only person who can speak to that is Secretary of Finance.
So then, in other words, you are trying to trying to misconstrue
No, I'm
or
not. I'm not.
mislead,
No, I'm not.
because
No,
there
no.
was something
Let's
that
not go
was
down. Let's not
said
go down there.
that
I'm not.
was a little bit questionable. There was the claim that you said that that the THE, Chief
Mhm.
Secretary, and so on, have not been truthful, where they claim that they have not been getting all of their allocations on
Mhm.
time. But the Chief Secretary constantly refutes that.
So I am going based on the information that I have, Candace.
Mhm.
The information I have is that the Tobago House of Assembly has received 100% of its allocations and have received its allocations quarterly. That's the information I have.
Is it that it was okay? Because we know that there's a process involved. It doesn't literally just go from the treasury and straight into the bank account of the THA. There is a process
So
that happens.
so the information I have, and I'm going to repeat this again, is that the THA has received its allocations quarterly, and its budgetary allocations have been 100%.
So then that contradicts what the Chief Secretary, Fali Augustine, has been saying.
And I repeat again, the information that I have.
So we're trying
So
to
you
figure
can't
out now
ask
who
me.
is speaking
No.
the truth.
So you can't ask me if what the chief secretary is saying isn't true. I am saying based on the information I have.
So, are you trying at all to clarify or to figure out a little bit about what's really going on here? Because we even have the Minister of Finance writing and stating, yes, there were some issues in terms of the allocation based on cash flow and that sort of thing.
During this term?
And during this term, there was also the issue of when we had the problem with the administrators and so on. There were some delays in terms of getting the allocation because the certain players were not in place.
So let me ask you a question. How long were we without a chief administrator? In the 22 months, how long were we without a chief administrator?
Then you're starting to go down the road of semantics a little bit, because at the end of the day, there were issues.
No. Let's. So listen, I have always come on your program and been very cordial with you. Let's not go down the road of me going down semantics. I am not dealing with semantics. I am basically stating the information I have. The information I have is that the Tobago House of Assembly has received its allocations quarterly and has received the 100% of its allocation. That's the information I have.
All right.
And when you speak about cash flow, if you want to talk about cash flow, before this administration took office, the previous administration had to operate on a month-by-month basis, month-by-month release, because the entire country had a cash flow issue. Because that was COVID and all of that, the country was not earning the kind of revenue that it required. And so the minister had to manage the country on a whole by a month-by-month basis. So the Tobago House of Assembly, instead of receiving its allocations quarterly, received its allocations monthly.
All right. So let's move on to just on some of the other claims that were made. There was a claim you made that there was nothing said about the Scarborough Secondary School over the
Mhm.
past 2 years, that you heard nothing from the THA. But we heard from several different platforms, whether it be the Chief Secretary, whether it be the Secretary of Education, addressing the issues of the Scarborough Secondary School and the complications that they encountered in terms of trying to figure out the best way to build a school without it costing the THA again in the future.
And I didn't see, that's the next thing, I didn't see that nobody spoke about Scarborough Sec. I made the point that Scarborough Sec, there was land allocated for Scarborough Sec. There was already conversations about funding for Scarborough Sec. That's the point I made. And so what we are asking is where are we with Scarborough Sec, and the construction, the design, the construction. That's all we're asking.
Okay.
And
Well,
what I said is that now we're talking about priorities. Scarborough Sec is a priority, right? And so the land was allocated. Discussions were already in place about funding. And the chief secretary made the comment that the minister said they are custom building schools for 200 and 250 million in China. And okay, fine, that may be so. But all I said is that Scarborough Sec should be a priority because this is where we were in terms of the progress of the construction of Scarborough Sec. We haven't heard anything. We want to know what's happening with Scarborough Sec.
but is
And
it
if
fair
you
to say that you haven't heard anything? Because there has been lots of things said about it in terms of the problems with the land when they did the surveys for the land and they realized that there might be some issues depending on the structure that they build. So they have to perhaps change some things. There's a lot of technical things that are happening in the background.
I stand by my statement, Kandace.
So you stand by a statement that you have not heard anything.
What is the where are we? Where Scarborough Sec is concerned? That's all I'm that. And you see, I made the point during the contribution that when we ask questions, we are condemned for asking questions. It is this present administration, while in minority, every Monday morning we'll be dragging the administration over the coals.
Mm-hmm.
And all we are doing in Tobago, you are now in governance. And all we're saying is that we want to know what's happening. And then when we ask the questions, you can't say that you're not part of the executive council. People, you ask questions on and people attack you on social media because you're asking questions. There are persons who are asking questions quietly, but it is the responsibility of us who are in the political space to ask it publicly, and we will continue to ask it. And nobody's going to silence the PNM or silence me when it comes to where we are at with the development of Tobago. This administration has received what, close to $250 million since they've been in office. And the question, and you, any right-thinking individual, $250 million, but yet every Monday morning somebody's being sent home. And those are the kind of questions the media ought to be asking. When there was an expected, when you have an expectation that based on your what do they call it, the HR does your assessment. If you expected that your contract is going to be renewed, every Monday morning somebody's being sent home, and we are not asking. We are not to ask that. We are not to inquire what's going on. Why are people systematically being sent home? Why are contracts going to secretaries for approval? Why are we doing that? Why is it that a Tobagonian can't ask a question anymore? If he asks a question, he get cuss. Why are we at that point in our island that if I ask what's happening with the 260 million, everything is Trinidad. Everything is Trinidad. You sit on you hold your executive council town hall meetings. And the reality is those town hall meetings are now descending into political meetings. because we seem to be constantly on the attack. With who? Who are we attacking? When all that's required in our 4-year term is to execute the programs that you said that you were going to execute.
Well,
Execute the programs.
well, one of the things that, you keep saying that, I mean, the THA got all that money and they're not spending it wisely, and we're not seeing the benefit to the people of Tobago. We just had the Tobago Carnival, um, and there's just a whole lot of excitement now. If you listen to the business community yesterday, they were all on board and they didn't have any major negative things to say.
Right.
There are small things about the Tobago Carnival that need to be tweaking as it grows, but they're seeing finally that Tobago is getting to that stage where there can be some growth after a pandemic, after a few years before that, a depression in the economy. Because, I mean, if you have to, we got to take these things into context. The economy of Tobago has been suffering for a long time before the pandemic. So what the THA inherited was not an easy thing. So we're finally seeing this. Now, could you still say that the THA is failing in everything that it's doing?
So I'm not a carnival person. Everybody knows that I didn't grow up in that. But I want to compliment the stakeholders, even the administration, for what is considered a successful event. And the business community was very happy. But what we have to also bear in mind is that the carnival is seasonal. The carnival is one weekend. And yes, there are benefits to be derived. The guest houses, the car rentals, taxi operators, restaurants. We did very well for the weekend. Tobago won. And so I have absolutely no issue in complimenting the THA for one, initiating the carnival, and two, for the weekend for being successful. But the question we have to ask, and the technocrats will drill down into that, sustainability. And that's what we have to ask ourselves. Okay, fine. You did excellent for one weekend. And listen, Tobago has always been, quote unquote, successful at events. Or events are usually extremely successful. The jazz festival, the Blue Food Festival, Heritage, all of these things create an environment because the government is not in the business of, festivals don't make money for the government. We established that a long time ago. What festivals do is create an environment for sectors to be successful. So your hotel sector, your restaurant sector, they are successful because of festivals. Let me tell you something, or what I should say, is that campaigning, this administration had all the answers for all the ills of Tobago. They had all the answers for all the ills of Tobago. And if you're honest with yourself, what have we seen? And I should ask the Tobagonian, are you better off? 22 months in. Has your standard of living improved 22 months in?
Again, we have to take into context. Are we taking into context the whole entire situation? Because it's easy to say 22 months and nothing happened. But are we really considering all the other factors around that may be making things a little bit difficult?
Will we
Even when it
consider,
comes
will
down
we,
to the
will we,
economies of scale and so on, the access of people getting into Tobago, because Tobago businesses would tell you that they cannot survive on the population of Tobago. They survive on visitors. But when a situation where we have problems with Caribbean Airlines and so on, I mean,
so you're saying to me that earlier you said to me that I was dealing with semantics. Now you're sounding very apologist in the scheme of things, Kandace, because all of these factors were still at play for 21 years. All of those factors, Caribbean Airlines was still there.
Caribbean Airlines actually had 24
you
flights.
bring in
I
you
mean,
bring in people needing to come to the island in order for the economy of the island to grow was still there. All of those factors were still there. And you see, it's not about me arguing. I'm not going to argue about where we stand. The fact is, the numbers the numbers bear out what we say. The numbers bear out what we say. I have. The, the reality is, when you look at the island, we stagnant. We are stagnant. And this is not me. And maybe I will take the bruising for it because I'm saying it. But people are quietly saying it, that we are stagnant. And it's not just construction, it's every single sector that's stagnant. And that's all. And if I get blows for it, then I am doing what I am supposed to do, which is to highlight what's going on and just ask the administration to do better. And I'm saying that one of the key things that needs to be addressed, and the media needs to zero in on the administration, is ask one question: how many persons within the Tobago House of Assembly, has been laid off within the last 22 months? And what was the reason for them being laid off? That's the question that you all need to be asking.
we'll have to end things right here because we're actually out of time for our interview this morning. But I want to thank you so much for being on with us and for having this discussion. And viewers, please don't go anywhere because we'll be back right after this break.